Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to the channel. And today we're getting into some true horrific Reddit threads, and oh boy, you guys better make sure to buckle up because today I have some truly insane, scary, terrifying, and like the title says, horrific Reddit threads. These are some of the most shocking and just downright insane Reddit threads I have ever read before. So you're gonna want to make sure to stick around, and I appreciate you stopping by. It means the world. And make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. The channel subscriber goal is 1 million subscribers before the end of the year, so please subscribe. And all right, this video will be long enough already, so sit back, relax, grab a drink or grab a snack, and without further ado, let's get into some true horrific Reddit threads. Neighbor is harassing my girlfriend, but also there's a mystery stalker. So this might be a bit long, but here it goes. My girlfriend, who's 26 female, and I, 30 trans man, live in an apartment complex. A few months ago, I found a written note attached to some packages outside. The note was random and didn't really make sense. It talked a lot about having pizza in our basement, that they've spoken to my girlfriend in their dreams, but just a lot of nonsense. I showed it to her. We assumed it was our neighbor who has a tendency to leave weird notes around, but we ultimately thought he was harmless. So I took a picture of it, just in case, and tossed it. Flash forward a month or so. She starts receiving texts. The texts are the same nonsense, but amplified. They talked about how they know she works for NASA, the CIA, the FBI, and they have a camera on our home 24/7 from space. That he was buying the complex for $30 billion and he was going to find her. Just craziness. I immediately informed our apartment manager, who documented everything and informed me that a man was wandering around at night and was caught multiple times by others who, when confronted, stated he was buying the complex. Okay, great. Same guy. We called the police, but they couldn't do anything because we didn't know the guy's identity, and he was using an anonymous texting app to send texts and who wouldn't tell us who he was. So we installed cameras. I informed neighbors of the situation, and we were being overly cautious. One of the neighbors I informed was the neighbor we originally thought the note was from, and his wife. He was disgusted and said he'd keep an eye out. Well, about a week ago, this same neighbor, who is a late 60s, early 70s-year-old man, decides to pull my girlfriend aside as she's coming home from work at night and confesses his undying love for her. This man fully says that he's in love with her and has never felt this way about anyone before, and he wanted to know if she felt the same way. She politely reminded him that he's married, to which he said, "I've been divorced 25 years, but yet he still lives with this woman." She, as nice as possible, informed him that she was not interested and it wouldn't happen, to which he hugged her, and she came inside and informed me what happened. I was livid. She has helped this man and his ex-wife multiple times. I have helped them constantly. I have spoken to him constantly. He's always been a bit odd, but we thought he was just socially awkward, and it was all mildly innocent. Occasionally, he'd cross a line, saying she looked good in an outfit because it was low cut, but again, we both considered it harmless. He would occasionally buy her gifts, once buying her chocolates and sometimes weed, give her money for things like Christmas. We assumed it was just because she was helpful, and on occasion, he'd do the same for me. Once buying me a sandwich because he was going to the sub shop and saw me outside before going. We thought nothing of it. Now, I'm not so sure, lol. Tonight, he shows up at our apartment door, banging on it angrily. After the weird situation that happened, she went upstairs and hid, and I answered the door. He immediately asked to talk to her, and I said she was tired and sleeping. He gets visibly mad, starts storming off, and I ask, "Do you need anything though?" And he angrily goes, "No," gets in his car, and speed drives away. I personally am tired of this. We already have one stalker, and now someone we trusted is someone I do not want around at all. I do not think he is the stalker. He has absolutely zero technology skills at all, and I don't think he'd be capable of using a texting app. He can barely use his phone, and it's one of the things I've had to help him with, just for basics. Quite literally the type to fall for Facebook scams. He thought Mark Zuckerberg was personally messaging him, asking for money. I'm just so mad that we've already been on edge, and now I have this old weirdo showing up all day because I said he can't talk to her. Also worth noting, his truck apparently broke down, so quote, he had to park it in my girlfriend's parking spot, so now she's using his. She does have pepper spray, as well as other tools of defense. I myself am a pretty short, scrawny guy, so as much as I'd love to go over and handle it myself, I'm not exactly equipped to defend myself if he gets angry. What would y'all do in this situation? I think I'm going to call the apartment manager tomorrow, but the odds that they'll do much are slim to none. I will probably delete this just for safety reasons, but genuinely, I'm at a loss. And now let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says, the fact he showed up and banged on the door angrily after you said she was sleeping is a huge jump in aggression. You need to lock everything down and stop helping him with anything ever again. And the OP replies to this and says, oh, we are not helping him with a single thing ever again. That was decided the moment he opened his mouth to tell her he was in love with her. I've told her to try and avoid contact with him if possible, and if he bothers her, to text me and I'll come outside. He completely lost the help privileges, but he has a tendency to stop both of us and try to talk. Another user says, document it all. Contact the landlord, get a doorbell camera, and possibly one above the door too. They make very small, almost hidden ones. Get a baseball bat and keep it by the door. Explain to the neighbor that your girlfriend is not interested and to leave her alone. If the messages continue, police can do more investigation into the texts. She can block the number, but that can be endless. Change the number. The cameras will help document things. Any chance the neighbor is more techie and misleading you? And the OP replies and says, we got a doorbell cam for the front and another camera for the back. So far, we haven't received any other messages from the mystery stalker. I do think if it was the neighbor, other neighbors would have also recognized him, and folks had no clue who the guy walking around that night was. We also had an incident a few weeks ago where someone rang our door. I checked outside, and it was someone I've seen lurking on our property through cameras twice. I went outside and he ran into the woods. It wasn't someone she or I recognized, and we heavily speculate that's who's been sending texts. So far, I've been documenting absolutely everything in relation to that, but I'm going to have to start with the neighbor now as well. We are honestly just hoping to move at this point. And someone replies and says, moving is probably the best option. And I mean, I can't imagine being the OP here, or the OP and their girlfriend, because imagine having not only one crazy stalker, but your neighbor also turns out to be a creep as well. I mean, moving is absolutely the best option. I don't think there's any way to downplay or mitigate this situation. I mean, you have basically two crazy people that like you for whatever reason and know where you live, which is also equally scary. So hopefully the OP can up and move pretty easily, but let's go down this thread and see what ends up happening. Another commenter says, how did the mystery person get your girlfriend's number to text her? Also, as previously stated, block, document, report now, and move ASAP. And the OP replies and says, we have absolutely no idea. They knew her full name and obviously know our address. So I'm unsure if they were just able to look it up. I tried, but couldn't find much other than paid websites and one site that a friend said to check that had all her info on it, but it didn't come up in the Google search. We did block mystery person, per the police's recommendation, and plan on cutting off all contact with the neighbor. And then the OP posted 4 days later with the title being "Creepy Neighbor Still Hasn't Moved His Truck," and the post reads as follows. I posted a few days ago about my neighbor, who is an older man, late 60s, early 70s. To make a long story short, he has been consistently inappropriate with my girlfriend, finally confessing he is in love with her about last week. She rejects him, and he shows up a few days later, all big and angry that I said he can't talk to her. His most recent tactic is parking in my girlfriend's reserved parking spot, claiming his truck broke down and her spot was the only one open. Lies. All lies. Our parking lot has plenty of open, not reserved spaces. His spot is 10 feet away. Not only that, he backed into the spot. Also, neutral exists. Put it in neutral and go somewhere else. He claims she can park in his spot instead. Nope. It's right next to his house, and we believe he wants to monitor when she's home and when she's not. She didn't park there, and suddenly she's getting a text from his wife asking why. His wife doesn't know about any of this, and we don't want to tell her. Also, someone keyed my girlfriend's car. We have no issues with anyone else in this neighborhood or anyone in general. So despite having no proof, we are certain it was him. We also noticed this the day after he showed up pissed off. I've already called the apartment manager and reported all of this. She is having them put a warning sticker on his truck, stating it will be towed if it isn't moved. She's doing everything she can to try and resolve this, and even told me he's not on the lease and shouldn't be there in the first place. Great. I am so beyond sick of this man. I'm fully done. I don't care if he simply knocks on the door at this point. I'm notifying the police. He has written her love letters, given her money, given her gifts, chocolates, weed, all of which we have unfortunately thrown away. He makes comments on her appearance, her body, everything. Dude goes as far as to grab our packages at the front door and move them to the back, sometimes showing up at 10 at night to let us know he moved packages. We once emptied the trash and left the bag on the steps to bring out to the dumpster, as we were leaving soon, and dude took it upon himself to bring it for us. This was about a day after he confessed he was in love with her. This would be a nice neighborly gesture if he wasn't such a damn weirdo. I even recall one incident when I first moved in where he knocked on the door at 2 in the morning, then ran away. I physically saw him, and I was home alone. Had no idea who the guy even was at this point. What would y'all do? We are trying to move, but money is tight and apartments are expensive. We got lucky living here because it's affordable. I start a new job in a few weeks, but will be helpful, but we are kind of stuck at this point. And then the OP makes a quick update saying, so girlfriend and I called the police. The officer was extremely kind and helpful. He agreed this guy is definitely a creep and told us to call tomorrow to file for a restraining order. He did go over to try and talk to the creepy neighbor, but he wasn't home. So he spoke to his wife instead, gave his phone number, and said creepy had to call him. He informed us he did look him up and he doesn't have an arrest record. So that's good, I guess. Oh, and since they threatened to tow his truck, it magically decided to work and was moved out of the parking spot. Amazing. So girlfriend is going to call tomorrow to try and get that protective order handled. That's all I have for now, but I will update if anything else comes up. But honestly, hoping I don't have to update ever again. LOL. And then we don't get an update for a while, and everyone just assumes that everything's all good now. The police got involved and the creepy neighbor just went back to his house, but unfortunately, that is not the case. And 1.5 months later, the OP makes an update saying, so I posted not too long ago about my creepy neighbor and him being wildly inappropriate and stalking my girlfriend. We have a court date coming up for a restraining order, so hoping that works out. Well, in that post, I mentioned a potential second stalker. A lot of people were speculating whether they were actually the same person. Today, I found out they aren't. This second person has been caught on camera multiple times, usually quickly peeking through windows and leaving notes at the door about pizza and NASA. Just weird things that don't make sense. Once knocking on the door and quickly running away when he saw me in the windows. Well, today, he tried to break in. I was home by myself and heard pounding on the door. He begins screaming at my neighbor, asking if anyone lives here, then proceeds to try and open my door multiple times, twisting on the doorknob, banging, yelling about how it's locked. I call 911 immediately. He then proceeds to announce his full name and part of his phone number. Still angry and agitated, runs around the house, tries to gain entry through our front door, and disappears. Cops show up. I show them the video, give them a description. They can't find him. They come back and tell me to make sure my doors stay locked, and that's that. I did my own research on the guy. Found him on social media, and it's just a mess of AI contact, articles, and paranoid ramblings about the FBI and space. Some claiming he's buying expensive local buildings, some talking about meeting his future wife in his dreams, and she calls the police on him. He mentions having swords and just overall a lot of mentally ill delusions. I do not consider this a safe or a wait-and-see situation, but what more can we even do? We don't know this guy. We have never met him. He just randomly started showing up one day and continues to make us feel unsafe. We have no idea if he lives here locally or if he's homeless. Nothing. The police also don't seem very willing to help us and typically just show up and then leave without anything being resolved. What would you do? What can we even do? And that is about as horrifying as an update can be. I mean, these poor people had to deal with the one creep neighbor, and now they have to deal with this crazy guy who tried breaking into their house, leaving notes, and also quickly peeking through their window. I mean, like, just imagining that gives me goosebumps. That is so terrifying to like be in your house and some guy's just quickly peeking through your window. That is just stuff of nightmares. But let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says, that dude announcing his name while trying to get in feels unhinged. Not harmless at all. I'm really worried for y'all. And the OP replies and says, he quite literally screamed his full name and phone number, but the camera cut for the last 3 digits, so I don't know them. But he was also screaming at my neighbors, asking them if anyone lived in our apartment, then proceeded to try and come through both doors, only to complain and mumble about them being locked. He is absolutely unhinged. He is convinced my girlfriend works for the CIA, the FBI, NASA, and Homeland Security. But he also seems weirdly infatuated with her at the same time, like he hates her and is paranoid, then obsessively wants her to be with him. Another commenter says, call the cops every single time he's there, whether it's just a note you find or him physically there at the moment. In fact, you may want to go in the police station with all of your info and any evidence so they are aware of the level of crazy you're dealing with here. Meanwhile, get yourself a baseball bat and some bear or pepper spray. Also, make sure your girlfriend isn't walking alone anywhere until this gets taken care of. And the OP replies and says, we are planning on going to the police station this weekend to hand in everything we have, plus everything I found on this guy. Managed to find his social media, which conveniently shows some of the exact outfits he's worn on camera around our house. Definitely won't be letting her walk outside alone. Got pepper spray a while ago because of both stalking incidents, but may need to invest in a bat. Currently only have a hammer, which I've been sleeping with since this started. And then another user says, Do you have a dog? My 60-pound dog provides me with a great sense of safety. So does my stun gun. It looks like a flashlight and is purely defensive. I got it after being attacked by a dog, but it will stop a man coming in your door. My grandmother kept a shotgun loaded with buckshot near her back door. She used it on the coyotes that went after her chickens, but that too would work on a crazy man that's broken through your door. And the OP replies saying, we sadly don't have a dog, as we have 3 cats. Girlfriend has a taser, but unfortunately, it's illegal to use it here without a license to carry, even if you're defending yourself. She is currently on a wait list for her license to carry classes, which are mandatory, and I've been trying to encourage her to call again to see if they'll bump her up because it's urgent. But for now, we're kind of stuck. And then the OP makes a quick update to their post and says, went to the police station today, and apparently this guy went to the station himself. After I posted the video through a neighborhood app, his parents became aware and confronted him. Well, he showed up at the police station and admitted he indeed tried to get into our home. Why? Because he is a robot from the future and needed to recharge the force field. He claims he isn't stalking anyone. Fortunately for us, I have proof that is a lie. Robots aside, so we are going to be asking our apartment manager to trespass him, and then we'll be moving forward with the restraining order tomorrow. And then the OP posts an update the next day titled, How to Get the Police to Take a Dangerous Stalker Seriously. And basically, the OP just reiterates everything they've already gone over, so I'm not going to go over it again. But basically, at the end of the post, they say, so my question is, how can I get law enforcement to take this seriously? I managed to find this guy's Facebook, and it's paranoid ramblings about the government, space, and finding his future wife in a dream. He mentioned meeting my partner in a dream. He has a collection of swords and speaks pretty openly about guns. However, I am unsure if he owns any. I have many of the incidents of him being around our apartment on camera. Yesterday, the police didn't even write anything down. I'm not sure if that's normal. I was thinking of bringing every last bit of evidence I have to the police station this weekend, as I'm genuinely concerned this man could potentially hurt us. It has continuously been escalating since the initial contact with the note, and I truly don't want to find out what comes next. Any advice? And now let's get into some of the top comments and words of advice. Someone asks where the OP is located, and the OP says we are located in Connecticut. So the same classes would apply. Unfortunately, we have significantly stricter laws in regards to gun ownership here. Another user says, I am a recently retired police detective, and I've investigated stalking cases at one point in my career. I was also a stalking victim. I was a police officer of 26 years in Northern Virginia, and I also moderate r/protect and serve. Look up your state's stalking laws. Memorize it. Know the elements it takes to fit the crime. Start right now making a timeline. Write down dates, times, and specifics every time there's an incident. Include case numbers. Use language used in the code section. Take pictures of things considered evidence. Save emails, notes, and text messages along with other evidence. If this does rise to the level of stacking, if it hasn't already, you have this list to show detectives. You have that list to show the judge. Call the police when they do things that put you in fear. Even if they don't give you a case number, get an officer's name and badge number. Cut all contact with this person. Block their phone number. Do not acknowledge anything they do or say. All contact with this person should be through a lawyer or the police. Mail them a no trespassing order via certified mail. Have a police officer give them a physical copy if available. Talk to the police/a lawyer about the process of obtaining a protective order or a no contact order. Also, talk about when it's the appropriate time to do that. Keep your door locked. Never ever open the door for this person. Call the police if they show up at your door. Entering your house as a location of interest in their computer is a thing in some jurisdictions, so responding officers will know if your situation anytime they are dispatched to your address. Call and ask who investigates stalking. If it's a detective who investigates it, maybe you can meet with one of the detectives and explain your situation. Maybe think about home security, an alarm, a ring cam, and maybe something for self-defense. Even if just pepper spray, maybe a dog, automatic lights outside. And I think that's all good info to know actually for all of you guys watching, just in case you ever deal with a stalking situation. And another commenter says, go down to the courthouse and get a restraining order that will give the officers more options if he shows up again. And the OP responds and says, would it matter if the only information we have is his name and a description? We don't currently have an address or phone number. He's a complete stranger to us. And the commenter replies to the OP and says, if you have a name, lots of other information can be found by the courts. The dude probably has an ID in the system that can give the other information. And then the OP posts an update 1.5 months later titled, Final Update. Hopefully. Creepy neighbor still hasn't moved his truck. So I posted a while ago about my neighbor. To make a long story short, he bought my girlfriend's car, began writing her love notes, showing up at our house constantly, and eventually confessed he was in love with her and wanted to be with her. Then, when rejected, her car magically got keyed and he started parking in her reserved spot in our parking lot, claiming his truck broke down. Police were called as he continued to escalate and get angry. During the initial post in my last update, I mentioned a second stalker and how it was confirmed this man was leaving notes, sending anonymous texts, a lot of which was mentally ill rambling, all to my girlfriend, and eventually showed up and tried to break in while I was home. Well, we took them both to court and filed for protective orders. Let's start with the second guy. Well, we went to the police station to hand in more information, and turns out he himself, let's call him Roger, went to the police station as well. Admitted he tried to break in, but said it was because he was a robot from the future and needed to recharge the force field, which is located in our basement. Okay, the police did nothing. Didn't even call us to tell us, and we probably wouldn't have found out if we didn't show up there. We also found out he had been in contact with our apartment's corporate office, claiming he purchased the complex and that everyone is to be evicted immediately. Our apartment manager also informed us he kicked in the laundry room door and attempted entry at a neighbor's house as well. Anyway, we go to court. He's there and ready. Immediately accuses the clerk of being in the CIA, so we know it's about to be a wild ride. My girlfriend goes up first. The moment they're sworn in, Roger sits down and goes, "All right, I'm gonna start talking now," to which the judge tells him he absolutely is not. My girlfriend starts explaining everything to the judge, hands in her evidence. Roger's turn to speak. He goes on a tangent about how they worked together at NASA, how he is a clone and his clone is the one causing trouble. Claims he's been to every planet in the universe and that he is the inventor of Looney Tunes. The judge asks him if he understands why he's there and what's going on, and he says yes, then claims it was all a misunderstanding because he thought my girlfriend was someone else with the same name who he worked with at NASA with his clone. And if she wouldn't have just told him he had the wrong person, he would have left her alone. The judge grants her a protective order for the maximum, which is a year. Then it's my turn. For some reason, he is really agitated with me. They had to bring in extra security, so it bumped up from 1 officer to 3. He continuously interrupts me, says it has nothing to do with me, and that if I didn't want him breaking in, I shouldn't live there. Goes on another tangent about NASA and Matthew McConaughey. The judge tells him to be quiet or he's going to be removed. So he sits quiet for about 30 seconds to let me finish speaking. The judge asks if I've been scared, and I explain that it's been hard sleeping because I never know if he's going to show up and get inside. Roger responds with, "Then don't sleep there." He tells the judge that he purchased our apartment complex, that he owns it. He sent a check for $1 billion, and his proof is an email he sent to the apartment's corporate office that if the judge has any questions, he can contact NASA. So the judge grants me a protective order for a year. Flash forward to a few weeks ago. Our apartment complex issues a no trespass order, and he's banned from the neighborhood. He showed up anyway, attempted to get inside someone's residence, and they called the police. He has continued to send emails to the complex, claiming he is the Pope and that they better comply with his requests. Anyway, last I heard, he's on a mandatory psych hold after the police caught him. And I truly hope this guy gets the help he needs because it's obvious he's living in a constant delusional state. Now, the neighbor. The reason I posted in the first place. This guy is a tool. He shows up to court, late mind you, says everything we're saying is blasphemy and lies, and that he wants a lawyer. So the judge asks him if he wants to postpone and get a lawyer. He says, "No, I want one now. Can I have a court-appointed attorney?" And the judge has to explain that it isn't criminal court, so they don't do that, and he'd have to pay for one. He goes on an angry tangent about how he's never done anything bad in his life, how he only helps people, and to be accused of this is blasphemy. The judge again asks if he wants to postpone, and he finally says yes. So it's pushed 2 weeks. 2 weeks comes up, and we get a massive storm. So it's pushed for 2 more weeks. During this 2 weeks, he is parked in front of our house, randomly going outside and shoveling cement anytime he sees us outside. I mean, literally scraping a shovel on concrete. And he'd do this all day. It's like he went from in love with my partner to pissed off and doing anything he can to annoy or intimidate her. Finally, we have our court date again. We show up. He's not there. He doesn't show. Didn't find a lawyer. Didn't come in to represent himself. Just pushed the date 2 weeks as what I suspect is some weird form of control. My girlfriend explains everything that's happened over the span of a few years. How at the initial hearing, he claimed he lived somewhere completely different. I forgot to mention that. He literally lied about his address after being sworn in. We had multiple neighbors as witnesses who stated he's lived there for years now. The judge asks if we've continued to have issues with him, and she explained that it's been minor passive-aggressive things to make us uncomfortable, but the physical contact has stopped. He asks how we could manage a protective order if he lives a few doors down, and she explains that the apartment complex has stated that he isn't on the lease and has been living there anyways, so this would give them the ability to evict him. She gets a protective order for 6 months, as the judge says he thinks this will be an eye-opening experience for him. We go home. Happy as hell, this is pretty much over. At least for now. And well, he must have been served because he was outside yelling about, "You've got to be fucking kidding me," holding a piece of paper and then angrily drove off. Either way, this has been a chaotic experience, and we are finally looking to move out of this neighborhood where the water obviously has lead in it or something. I don't know. I also want to mention, during my initial post, a lot of you said we should tell the neighbor's wife, despite our resistance. Well, we ended up telling her before we even filed for protective order, and she did not care. In fact, she didn't believe us. She showed up in court, supporting him 10 toes down, so there's that. Anyway, that's all. Hopefully I won't need to update on the situation ever again. Fingers crossed. Edited to add, we also found out Roger is a serial stalker and has been doing this for over 10 years to different women. We have no idea why he latched onto us specifically or where he even found us, but it's hard to feel bad for the guy when this has been a constant in his life. And not all of these stalking incidents involve mentally ill delusions either. Apparently, nobody has ever reported him before though. Update, again, I guess I lied. That wasn't the final update. Neighbor filed a motion to vacate the protective order. claims he was late to court but did in fact show up and it was too late. So we have to go back again. Genuinely just want this to be over. And oh my God, I just feel so bad for the OP and their wife. I mean, imagine having to go to court like 5 different times over the course of weeks and having to deal with these crazy people. And one is possibly dangerous. I mean, showing up, trying to break in, all of that. And the other guy is just a complete asshole and also very creepy. But let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says, holy, how did you guys get this lucky to have 2 crazy stalkers in one neighborhood? This is the wildest thing I've read on here. They need to keep the NASA guy in a psych ward. He shouldn't be allowed out in public. If I were you, I would definitely move before those protective orders are up. And the OP responds and says, honestly, I wish I knew. At first, I thought they might be the same person. It was a slim chance, but it made more sense. Imagine my surprise when NASA clone man showed up and tried to kick my door in. I do hope he receives some level of assistance and gets medicated because he's going to hurt someone. All it's going to take is him trying to get into the wrong home and he's going to be blasted away into a new Earth. And then another commenter asks the OP if the landlord or apartment manager can evict this neighbor who lives with the wife. And the OP says, yes, they will. They've started the paperwork to get him out. Laws here tend to favor squatters or tenants, so it's really difficult for landlords to actually kick people out. It can be lengthy and costly. I assume they just let it slide because they were paying rent and not really doing anything wrong. Now he's doing something wrong, so it gives them a reason to put the effort in. His wife is actually his ex-wife. He wasn't always living there. She was actually living there with her son, but their son passed away in the late 2010s, and I suspect he moved in after that, but I'm not 100% sure. As far as her not being upset, he is extremely manipulative. He treats her horribly, and I'm sure he's used to being able to lie his way out of things. He once told me he was accused of stealing women's underwear in their previous neighborhood. She still allowed him to stay after that, so I think she enables his behavior. Despite him treating her poorly, she is wildly convinced he can do no wrong. And then, guess what? That was not the final update, and the OP posted an update 10 days later titled, Final Update, hopefully, creepy neighbor still hasn't moved his truck. Well, previously I stated that our neighbor who has been harassing my girlfriend, you can read my other post for the full details, but it's long, filed for a motion to vacate the protective order. He claimed his wife fell that morning and they couldn't get to court on time. So we went to court again. This time he actually showed up and was on time. It takes about 20 minutes for him to answer basic questions like why he wasn't at the last court date. He claims he was. He wasn't. Finally, my girlfriend steps in and says he was at the first one, he was not at any of the others. The judge asks him why. He says his wife fell. The judge asks when she fell. He says 3 months ago. The judge asks if she fell the morning of the court date. He says no. His wife sighs and starts talking and is told to be quiet. She continues talking and they threaten to escort her out. She finally stops. He admits she didn't fall, but because of her disability, it takes a while to get ready and they were late. The judge says, okay, and gives him the chance to speak at another hearing. Everybody gets sworn in, and my girlfriend starts explaining the situation, how he makes her feel unsafe, how he's been giving her gifts, making intimate comments, and antagonizing her by parking in her reserved parking spot, parking in front of our house on the street, etc. This man responds by saying that she dresses scantily clad to bring the trash to the dumpster. She literally wears sweatpants and an oversized t-shirt, and she purposefully does so when he's outside to entice him into making comments. That his comments make her, quote, dance in her seat, that he was smitten by her, and that he didn't know it was so wrong to compliment someone, and that this is all vengeful. The judge asked him to define scantily clad, to which he himself to a new earth before saying, I don't know, colors. Then brought up how she wasn't wearing shoes once to get her cat at the vet. This is definitely not true, but whatever. No shoes is scantily clad now, I guess. He continued to go on and on about nonsense that has nothing to do with the case, talking about his car, his boat, how he's a good, honest person for 2 hours. He brought out a hand-drawn diagram of our streets made of duct tape, paint, and Sharpie, and used a pointer to show where our apartment is and where he is, and how she could easily avoid him by parking far away. To which the judge said, but that would make it a longer walk to get inside her home. Wouldn't it make more sense for her to walk the route already mentioned? And he responds with, well, I don't know, I hadn't done the measurements. He continued to aimlessly reference this diagram with no basis. He continuously brought up how my girlfriend was purposefully trying to entice or seduce him by being outside when he got home, walking by when he was around, waiting for him to come home, or just sitting in her car for a bit when she arrived back from work. He also said after confessing his love for my girlfriend, he did in fact hug her and claimed she said, "I love you to death." My girlfriend responds to this and says, I have literally never said that ever in my life, nor would I. My girlfriend calls me up to stand. He accuses me of being a liar because I didn't tell him my legal name. I'm a trans man. Nobody calls me by my legal name, nor do I introduce myself as such. And proceeds to ask my girlfriend if I'm male or female, to which the judge asks what the relevance is. I then give my statement, bringing up situations that made me feel uncomfortable. For example, giving her a box of heart-shaped cookies that he wrote, "Want to monkey around" on, or when he told me he was accused of stealing women's underwear. He goes on to question me and claims I asked him to clean our house, to which I said, that never happened, literally ever. He then says that I told him my girlfriend said I didn't clean enough, and I respond by saying I cook every day, and we each have a list of household chores that we complete, so I wasn't sure what he was referring to. Before the judge cut me off and asked him what the relevance was, he claims I asked him for his phone number to give to my girlfriend, which obviously didn't happen. He then questions why I sometimes walk by him to get to my car if I'm so afraid. I explained that, unfortunately, we live in the same complex, and sometimes I have places to go to, which means I can't always wait for him to go inside, considering he will stand outside all day if he sees us, so I have no choice but to walk by him to get to my vehicle. He asks if he's ever asked me for help. I say yes, then explain that he asked for help setting up his laptop. He asks why. I said because he wasn't tech savvy and needed assistance. He says why else? And I said because he wanted to do an ancestry DNA test. And he continues, no other reason? I said no. He then says that he asked me for help because he wanted to auction off his boat to help paralyzed veterans. I respond with, you never said that. You said you wanted to sell a leather jacket to help veterans, but never the boat, and it was never a conversation when bringing up the laptop. He then brings up an incident where I was helping an injured squirrel and says I asked him for help. I said I didn't. He just came over and asked what I was doing. The random questions and rants go on for a bit. He then accuses me of hacking into him and his wife's phone and claims I drained his credit card, claimed I'm tech savvy so I can do that. I am not tech savvy like that. I just know basics like setting up a laptop or helping with common iPhone use. He also accused me of going outside to the trash in just a t-shirt and nothing else, which again, didn't happen. After I'm done, the entire courtroom just looks exhausted. A woman asked me if he was drunk. Another mouthed, "Oh my God, I am so sorry." People had to leave during his long, aimless rants because they were on the verge of tears trying to hold in a laugh. At one point, he brings out a bag of evidence which includes credit card statements which he claimed proved he was an honest man because he paid his bills on time. Another time he pulled out an AARP advertisement card, to which the judge said, "Sir, that is an AARP advertisement." And he responded with, "Yes." And the entire courtroom started laughing. Every time this man would decide to go on and ask more questions or go on more rants, there was a sigh from everyone else in the courtroom. People were face-palming, shaking their heads, just sick and tired of hearing him talk. Even security was trying not to laugh at some of the ridiculous things he was saying. I mean, the guy brought a giant bag of mail with paid bills to try and prove his innocence, all whilst making himself look guilty just by speaking. He lied about the most random things and was all over the place. He told the judge he couldn't keep up because my girlfriend was all over the place and couldn't stay on topic. It was like he was projecting. I mean, 90% of the 2 hours was him talking about random shit. My girlfriend would only respond and say, "What was happening?" The judge finally decides to ask if he's done rambling and grants her a 6-month protective order. I don't know if this guy is going to try and fight it again, but this was by far the most chaotic courtroom we've been to. I mean, we have 2 different stalkers at once. One who is a mentally ill schizophrenic man, who is getting help now, and who we also have a protective order against. And somehow, this one was more chaotic and crazy. At least the other guy just accepted answers and understood what asking a question was. This dude wouldn't ask a question. He would make long 15-minute statements and then stare at us. Anyway, fingers crossed this is over. We will be requesting copies of the transcripts because it was that insane. And then the top comment said, "I'm so sorry this is happening to you. Fingers crossed the order does its job." And the OP responds and says, "I'm hoping. We are also moving, thank God, so we won't have to be neighbors with this dude anymore." And that is the end of this truly insane Reddit thread. I'm just really glad that the OP is able to get the protective orders, and now it sounds like they are moving away. But holy shit, they had 2 crazy stalkers at the same time. Luckily, the schizophrenic man is getting the help he so desperately needs, but at the same time, that was very scary with him as well because he tried to break in. Yeah, I think the OP got super lucky here. The OP and their wife got super lucky here because these 2 guys are crazy, obviously. And they're just very lucky. Nothing else happened. Obviously, they got their time wasted. They had to go to court multiple times, which just sounds horrible, and have to deal with this gibberish and just nonsense. But at the end of the day, it sounds like it worked out the best way it could. But man, this was one hell of a thread. And I just hope that the OP and their wife are doing better now. Homophobic mother-in-law tries to kill OP and her own son to end their relationship. My husband and me, we're a gay couple. It's probably not that common to see gay people in the subreddit, but I have a mother-in-law too. And the relationship with her is so strained that I cannot help but to talk about it. I'd also like to apologize for my English. It's not my first language, so there might be some mistakes. We're married for 2 years. When we met, my husband was severely depressed because of mother-in-law's constant pressure to find a girl, marry, and make a family as soon as possible. She didn't care that he's very young. She didn't care that he wanted to get an education first. Her only concern was, you've got a job and now you must have a family. Nothing else matters. Just find a girl, marry, and have babies. My husband and me, we got an age gap of 11 years. Now he's 22 and I'm 33, but when we met, he was 20 and I was 31. That's why we kind of started as friends, because I was unsure whether something more was possible due to our age difference. However, as the time went by, we realized that we're falling in love. There's nothing we can do about it, and honestly, that age gap has never been a problem for us. We dated in secrecy for 2 years. He was staying at my place often, which led to mother-in-law to think that he has found a bride. My husband was like, "Yes, mom, I found someone I love." And mother-in-law was like, "Well, great. Then bring her over so I can judge whether she's the right choice." Even if he was straight, that's a messed up thing to say, as she obviously meant that he can only marry her if mother-in-law approves it. Then my husband told me that he was tired of hiding, that he wanted us to marry, and then he would come out to mother-in-law. I was happy to hear it because I was getting tired of hiding it too. We married the same way we dated, in secrecy. We only had a handful of good friends there with us, and the next day, my husband and me, we both went to visit his mother to tell her the truth. Even though my husband warned me beforehand that it might get ugly, I was still hoping that his mother would support her son, as he's her child after all. Fast forward to meeting mother-in-law, it did get ugly. More ugly than I could ever imagine. First, she thought we were joking, and when she realized we're not, she got livid. I've heard many homophobic things in my life, but I have never met a person that would be more homophobic than she was. "You've HIV, don't you?" "Oh no, you're not a shit pusher. There are no such abnormalities in our family. Where the hell did you get it from? 2 men cannot be a couple. That's bullshit. You need to see a psychiatrist." All these arguments and many more made me feel as if we were still living in the Middle Ages. She slapped my husband several times. When I pushed him behind me to defend him, she slapped me as well. She cursed me and cursed her son, telling him that he's not her son anymore and won't be until he refuses this lewd lifestyle, and yelled at us to get out of her house, which we gladly did. First, we thought about going to the police and report mother-in-law for assaulting us, but then we realized that we cannot prove it. No witnesses, no cameras, no nothing. My husband was very upset because I come from a big family. I've got 3 brothers and 2 sisters. I've got aunts and uncles, and I've got a bunch of cousins. He doesn't. He doesn't have a father. He doesn't have siblings, and his mother is basically his only relative. Of course, now he's a part of my family, but still, hearing your own mother saying such things to you is really hurtful. A few days passed, and then my husband received a call from mother-in-law. It seemed that she had calmed down and able to talk to him in a civilized manner. She visited him at his job, but my husband was wrong when he thought she was going to accept us. Once again, she tried to convince him that it's all nonsense, that our feelings aren't real, and that she has found a good doctor who could cure him from this. Of course, my husband refused to see any doctor because homosexuality is not a disease, and no medically educated doctor would say a cure is necessary. And then she asked my husband what I'm doing for a living, what's my profession, and he told her that I'm a firefighter. Suddenly, she seemed a lot happier, and she was like, "Oh, then it's not so bad after all." My husband asked her why would my job change her thoughts about me, and she was like, "Well, it's a dangerous job. Firefighters often have many accidents. Maybe he'll burn up one day." Holy shit. That is an insane thing to say. That is wild. Let's continue. Like, how evil do you have to be to wish that to another person? Obviously, she hates me the most because I'm the eldest, and she believes that I've messed up her son. I got to talk to her when she arrived at our house. Unfortunately, she knows where we live because she followed me home one day, which is another twisted thing. She told me to leave her son alone, that he's not gay, that this is all my doing, and that she'll do everything in her power to separate us. I advised her to educate herself about homosexuality, as she's clearly very ignorant, and I couldn't convince her that I'm not after a quick fling with her son. I love him and want to spend the rest of my life with him. I told her that 2 years ago, she had led her son to depression with her bugging him about girls and not letting him live his life. She was like, I was just making sure he doesn't forget that he has some obligations in this life. What the fuck? Since when is marriage an obligation? I also reminded him that she wished me dead. I haven't forgotten it. And she was like, you deserve more than dead, you predator. I honestly don't know how and why that came across because my husband has never been underage when dating me. Last night, she tried to break into our house. I don't know why, but it was obviously her. In the middle of the night, we were awoken by our dog barking and someone banging at our front door. Someone was jerking the doorknob for a good while. We didn't answer the door, of course, but my first thought was that it's the mother-in-law. When the morning came and we were leaving for work, the first thing I saw when I opened the door were many notes taped to it. They were all typed on the computer, and they all had the same content. Horrible things to me. There was my name and things like, die, I'm waiting for your death, you old F-slur, you predator, I hope your thing falls off, etc. My husband saw these notes too, and we were both sure that it was mother-in-law because no one else would do it to us. We talked to a police officer who's a friend of ours, and he said that we should save all these notes, but actually, the police cannot do anything because she hasn't actually physically attacked us. As long as those are just words, they can't do anything to her. Even when we told him that she hit us when we met her for the first time, he said that the main thing is proof, and if we don't have any proof, then police can't help us. We're actually thinking about moving because we don't feel safe anymore. We don't know what else could come to her mind. It's so very sad that we live in a country that's supposed to be safe for gay people, and still there are some individuals that don't realize that it's the century 21st and that people are different. And then we don't hear an update from the OP for a few days, and oh my god, nothing could have prepared me for the OP's title of the next update, which is titled, Update, Mother-in-Law Burned Down Our House and Got Arrested. Let's get into it. I'm posting for the second time now. I didn't see that coming. We made a big mistake when we didn't take mother-in-law's threats seriously enough. We thought that she's like a dog that barks but doesn't bite. Speaking of dogs, the only hero in this story is actually our dog. Heavens bless our dog. It happened at night. My husband and me, we are heavy sleepers. We were dreaming sweet dreams and didn't notice anything. If our dog hadn't jumped on our bed and barked, waking us up, we would probably both be dead right now. I'm a firefighter myself, and I realized that the fire was too big already and we couldn't put it out by ourselves. We escaped through the windows, fortunately unharmed. Somebody had called the firefighters, who happened to be my colleagues, which was a weird situation. It was the first time they had to work on their buddy's house. They tried to work as fast and as efficiently as they could, but our house is damaged beyond repair. We can't live in it anymore. Mother-in-law got caught and basically dug her own grave because she herself said that she was hoping till the last minute that her son would come to his senses, break up with me, and start to date women, but he didn't, and she felt ashamed that she has created such a deformed human being. So she decided that it is better to have no son than gay son. She basically said she wanted to kill him. She even thought at first what happened was classified as arson with the intent to damage the property, which would mean softer sentence, After those words, it became arson with the intent to endanger life. And that means much more severe punishment, even up to life imprisonment. Our lawyer said that most likely she will not receive the maximum sentence because no one has died, but she will receive at least a couple years behind bars. And there's not much her lawyer can help her with because she confessed. And she said such a stupid thing. Quote, "Well, my son's F-slur husband is a firefighter. Why didn't he save his house?" In the middle of the night, just awoken, no gear, no tools, no equipment, caught completely unaware by the fire. Are you serious, mother-in-law? You think that just because I'm a firefighter means I can put the fire out with my bare hands? Many people think that house fire is like they see in the movies, flames and light, but actually it is complete darkness. The smoke makes the room so dark within minutes that you can't even see your own hands. House fire is always like a dark night. Now we're living with our friends while we find another place to live. Our clothing, our documents, passports, marriage certificate, everything is gone, but of course, those are just things. We can buy them again. We are alive. That's the most important thing. My husband is done with her. He's so very upset that his own mother wished him dead just because he's gay. If before this, he still hoped that the relationship could be fixed, now he doesn't want to hear a single word about her no more. Her homophobic hate almost killed us. And it is our own fault as well because we didn't give her actions and words the seriousness they deserved. We know some gay people who also have the homophobic parents, but they have never actually tried to kill their children. I guess that's why we didn't think that it might happen to us. And then the top comment on this post is whether the dog made it out or not, and the OP reassured us all by saying, yes, he did. We got him out of the house before ourselves. OP and her husband mistreat their autistic son to the point of S-word, causes family to fall apart. And the original title of the original post was titled, "Our son committed S-word today, and our other children blame us. We don't know what to do." And the post reads as follows. This is an Am I the Asshole post as well as an asking for advice one. Sorry for the long text, but please read the whole thing as there are many important details in it that I couldn't fit into the too long didn't read. My husband, 59 male, and I, 50 female, have/had 3 children. James, 27 male, Kate, 23 female, and Stephen, 20 male. When he was 6, Stephen got diagnosed with autism, and we did everything to accommodate him and get help. He kept telling that he doesn't want any help and wants to be treated like a quote normal person. We always try to reassure him that he needs it to achieve the same results as other kids, and he should accept himself and be proud and not listen to society or other people. By the way, everyone was always super accepting and did their best to accommodate. But Stephen wouldn't listen and said that he's as competent as other people and was it before he got diagnosed, and we started treating him like a subhuman too. Whenever someone would try to help him, he immediately started to explain that he doesn't want or need any help and came up with excuses. As he grew older, Stephen distanced himself from other people because he didn't want anyone to know him as an autistic person. He even asked us to let him change schools and not tell anyone at the new school about his condition, what we of course didn't allow. By the time he was in his early teens, he fell into a really bad depression and became S-word, but refused to take medication or go to therapy to treat it because at that point, he wouldn't accept any help from anyone at all, even if it wasn't for his autism. Stephen claimed that the cause of his depression was the special treatment everyone gave him, and he just wanted to live as a normal person. He tried to make a compromise that if we let him go to a different school where no one knows about his autism and stop treating him differently, he will get treatment for his depression. By then, James, Kate, and a few of Steven's teachers were encouraging us to let him do it, but we still said no. When Steven was 15, he attempted S-word. At 18, he finished school, got accepted into his dream university, moved out, and cut off contact with my husband and me. He still kept talking to his siblings. He left us an angry goodbye letter in which he claimed that we ruined 12 years of his life, that we are the reason he's still depressed, and that he hates us with a passion. He said that now he finally won't be known as a crazy, stupid, and awkward person who needs help for everything and can lead a normal life. We tried to call him and sent him letters and emails, but he didn't answer. Recently, we visited him at a university, but he wouldn't talk to us and eventually threatened to get a restraining order, after which we immediately left. We haven't heard much about him since then, but from what his siblings told us, he was doing better now, although he still suffered from depression. Anyway, today, he committed S-word. From what we know, he OD'd on medication. Kate, who told us the sad news, says that we shouldn't have given Steven any special treatment, or at least stopped when he told us to, and that by treating him differently, we basically drove him into S-word. She said that we have failed as parents and she will consider cutting contact with us too because she doesn't want people like us as parents. James agreed with her and said that we should at least acknowledge our mistake. Kate packed her stuff and left shortly after. She originally planned to stay for New Year's too, saying that if we want to keep a relationship with her, we should admit that we did wrong and learn from it. We, however, think that it's the fault of society with its standards and expectations, and Steven's own fault because he wouldn't accept any help. We are absolutely devastated. Is Steven's S-word really our fault? And what can we do to save what's left of our family? And now let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says, "It is your fault." Another user says, "The way you accommodate someone is doing what they ask of you. You disgusting excuse for human beings." Another user says, "You fail to do the most important thing. Listen to him." And another user says, "He was screaming to be heard, seen, and treated normally. It's like yelling into a void and getting nothing. Frustrating to say the least. The very least. It's not entirely your fault, but you're certainly not blameless." And then we don't receive an update for about a year. And the following update post a year later really isn't anything new. The OP just kind of goes over the exact same story and the same details as the last post. The only differences are the beginning and the end, with the post starting with, "Tomorrow would have been the 21st birthday of our son who committed S-word almost a year ago." And the OP gets into the same details of what happened the prior year. And at the end, the OP says, "Kate blamed us for his death, saying that he repeatedly told us how much he didn't want to be treated differently, but we never listened. She has also since cut off contact with us because she couldn't and didn't want to forgive us for killing her brother. Our other son has also been visiting and talking to us much less since then. In just a couple of months, we have pretty much lost all of our children. We tried to distract ourselves, but with Steven's birthday coming up, we can only think of him and our other children, even if they've abandoned us and he didn't like to celebrate his birthday." And then the OP posts an update about a month later titled, "How do we get our daughter to talk to us again?" And it reads as follows: "We miss him so much. Our 60 male and 51 female daughter, Kate, who's 24 female, completely stopped talking to us about 10 months ago. She did it because, according to her, we are to blame for her younger brother's S-word, which happened about 1.5 months prior to Kate cutting off contact to us. However, at the time of his S-word, he has already also been no contact with us for over a year. He left for university, stopped talking to us, and blocked us everywhere immediately after graduation, and we didn't even know he had applied for university, with the exception of one time when we visited him at a university, and even then, he didn't talk to us. Kate's other brother, 27 male, still regularly talks to her, and we've tried to get him to get her to talk to us again, but he refuses because he thinks that Kate doesn't have to talk to us if she doesn't want to. And he also believes that our youngest committed S-word because of us, even though it doesn't make any sense. She doesn't talk to any of her other relatives. We've reached out to her on social media, but she didn't answer, and although we knew where she lived until recently, we visited, but she was never home. According to her brother, she has moved to New York City this September because she enrolled into a PhD program at some university there. So we don't even know where she lives now. What can we do to get Kate to talk to us again? And now let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says, clearly they both think you killed their brother, and I doubt there's anything you can do to get her to talk to you. She might come around one day, but until then, you can't do anything. And the OP replies and says, but we didn't. We did the best we could, and at the time of his S-word, he has already been no contact with us for over a year, with the exception of that one time we visited him, and even then, he refused to talk to us. And someone replies saying, I don't know your story, but if he's been no contact to you for a year, there's definitely a reason. He clearly thought you guys were toxic or to blame for a circumstance. You can tell us his story, but regarding your daughter, she won't talk to you until she is ready. Another user says, I'm sure you're heartbroken. I can't imagine the anguish you're feeling losing a child and the other children separating from you by choice. Some things need to be addressed and acknowledged within the family history. Until then, there's no healing. I hope you can get into counseling for your family's sake, if not your own. And then the OP posts an update about the same day, which is titled, My husband's drinking problem is getting out of control. What can I do? My husband has had a drinking problem for somewhat over 2 years now. He usually drinks vodka and occasionally wine, and has 2 to 5 shots of vodka on weekdays, and sometimes up to the whole bottle on weekends. When he drinks wine, it's even more, and he will even have an entire bottle during the week. When he's drunk, he is extremely angry, and although he doesn't get physically aggressive, he screams and yells a lot. And I basically don't get any real time with him, with the exception of the occasional few hours on a weekend, because he gets drunk as soon as he gets home on work days and often starts drinking by around noon on weekends as well. His drinking problem comes in waves. With my help, he has managed to get it under control multiple times, and although he would still drink almost every day, it was usually nowhere near enough to get him drunk. But it always gets worse again. He only began intensively drinking about 2 years ago when our youngest applied to university without us knowing, and then cut us off when he went off to said university. My husband felt very angry and betrayed, and he still is. And that's when he resorted to alcohol. Before that, he would only drink on special occasions like holidays, parties, and date nights. And even then, he almost never had enough to get drunk. I feel like I've lost him since his drinking problem began, at least during the waves when it's really bad, because he's drunk most of the time, and then all he does is just scream around. What can we do to end his drinking problem? And the top comment on this says, the problem with any addiction, alcohol, drug, gambling, gaming, etc., is that it is the addict's problem. They are the ones who want to have to fix themselves. Nothing you say or do will change that. Get some therapy for yourself. This is an extremely dysfunctional and toxic cycle, which is something you can work on. I wish you the best. and that is the last update we've received from the OP, and we have not received an update in over 3 years.